talk a lot about what more social media companies could do. Here's a different one for you. Could they do more to identify and help people at risk of suicide? It's one option that's being considered by the government as they try and look at ways to better understand why people harm themselves.
4,500 people take their own life in the UK every year, and the cross-party suicide prevention plan published this morning is looking at ways to cut that number. Let's speak to Lucy Dimbelow, who's attempted to take her life on several occasions, and Ged Flynn from the charity PAPYRUS that works to prevent suicide among young people. Morning, both. Thank you very much for coming to talk to us. I know, Lucy, you've been here before to talk to us. What do you think of this idea that tech companies should sort of identify people who might be at risk, for example?
I think it's a very interesting one. Obviously, there is a responsibility for everybody to be doing more to prevent suicide, but my big concern about this is that it seems to be making artificial intelligence and analytics responsible for something that actually really needs person-to-person contact. I think the idea that we can sort of talk people out of suicide by using metrics and by using bots is pretty wide of the mark, to be honest. I think what we really need is more people on the ground in crisis care.
Put that to Ged, because you were involved in the consultation process. Could you answer that point from Lucy, do you think?
Well, I could go both ways on this, Lucy, to be honest. I think I totally endorse what you said. You can't beat human contact. When somebody's in crisis, there's nothing better than a caring heart or a good pair of ears to listen to your story. But I do think there is some value. Let me give you an example. On my own social media feed, I'm not the only one who feels that people are marketing me and finding out they'll chase me for the latest fashion or whatever. If they can do that for my clothes, they can do that for my intentions to live or to die. So my suicidal intent is often put out there, not explicitly, but the search engines I use and so on. And if we can improve that data collection and the use of that to put human resources to me to get me help, then that's all to the good.
Well, how would that happen then? Because that's exactly what I wanted to ask you. So the analytics say that this person might be at risk. Then what?
Well, I think companies have a responsibility, surely, to say that, well, if we provide a platform to you to share your life with us, when I share my potential death with you, that company should take that responsibility. And then we can... So already some social media companies are signposting people to PAPYRUS and Samaritans and that. So the technology, the skill is there. We just need to test whether the will is there to do this.
Lucy, it'd be great to get your response to that, because I know this was coming on this morning. This was your big concern.
Yes, absolutely, yeah. I think one concern I have is that the feeling that you're being sort of policed almost by the internet might make people less willing to be open online about their mental health. And I know for some people that's a real outlet. People who are lonely, people who are isolated, people who just want to share experiences with others who have walked in their shoes. I can see that it is a good initiative. It has a good intent behind it, but I can see that it would possibly make people reluctant to be open about their struggles if they think that Big Brother is sitting there somewhere watching them and ready to press a button.
Well, also they might be looking for help online, and
Exactly.
that could be one of the alerts, I suppose, couldn't it?
Yes.
And would that be a concern as well?
Yeah, I mean, it's very, very easy to lead yourself into some very, very dark places with the internet. It doesn't take much to find some really quite disturbing and triggering content. So I think that's something that needs to be balanced with it as well, to be honest.
Would, going back to when you were really struggling,
Yeah.
what do you think would have made a difference to you then? And are some of these things involved in this process, would they have helped? What would have been of service to you?
What I needed when I was in crisis was person-to-person crisis care at the point that I needed it. I mean, I've been in hospital following suicide attempts, and I've been discharged as soon as I was medically fit with no psychological support ongoing at home. It's been left to my husband to take time off work to look after me, for friends to step in because nobody wanted to leave me alone. That's where the gap is, I think. I was crying out for help. I was very, very clear with the various mental health authorities that I did not feel safe, and yet the help was still not available. And I don't think there is any substitute whatsoever for proper crisis care at the point that it's needed.
And I mean, you just give a real sense of the desperation that you felt, and you know there will be other people who are in similar situations. Yeah. So what do you say to that, to people who think that the money, the focus would be better spent on that, sharp edge, when people really are in crisis?
Well, there is a clear investment from government at the moment, not just in terms of putting a minister in charge of this, which is great, to hold the feet of ministers from all departments of government to the fire when it comes to putting flesh on the bones around the aspiration that suicide is everybody's business. We need to make sure that's actually happens now. But absolutely endorse what you said. You can't beat human contact. Every day on Hopeline UK, our charity hears from people in absolutely the darkest places, and we know there's always hope. People can contact organisations like mine, whether they're in crisis or whether they're worried about somebody else who is, and we can certainly help them to save their life.
I wanted to read you a government statement we've got on this. They say, as a society, we need to do everything we can support vulnerable people and at-risk people, as well as those in crisis, give them the help they desperately need. Together, we'll do everything in our power to meet our ambition to reduce suicides by at least 10% by the year 2020. I look forward to working collaboratively with social media and tech companies to help achieve our ambitions. I suppose it's a bold plan, and if those figures are attainable, then that's got to be good news, isn't it, Lucy?
Yeah, I mean, that equates to about 450 lives a year, so of course that's massive, and that's something that absolutely should be a priority for government. But I think that it's a jigsaw with many, many pieces. I think the social media side of things is one thing. I think the ability for people to access help and support from charities, from like-minded people online is another valuable part. But I don't think we can underestimate the role that the NHS and social care need to play here.
And targets, is that helpful, do you think, to kind of put numbers on it?
If we don't have a plan, we won't get there. Right. So targets are helpful indicators of progress, but only that.
Okay, and Lucy, just one sort of final thought. If people are feeling, like you were feeling, it's the advice is individual, but what would you say?
I think you have to be prepared to be very persistent.
Yeah.
I think it helps to have somebody in your corner, whether that's a partner, a parent, a friend. It's very, very difficult when you're in crisis to have the energy to really fight for the help that you need. So having someone behind you fighting for that is essential. And also don't assume that you're going to get the help that you need from the NHS or from social care. I mean, charities like PAPYRUS, like mine, the Samaritans, all do really fantastic work there, and I think they are all really valuable outlets if you're feeling desperate.
Thank you both very much indeed for your time this morning. Thank you very much. And I'll just give you details as well.